What's up, everyone? My name's Colt, and today I'm going to talk to you about how I lost $10 million. That's right, $10 million. And the lessons that I learned from that, and hopefully you can avoid making the same mistakes that I did. You see, these are the things that I wish somebody would have told me back when I started investing in real estate, especially my real estate agent. So years later, now that I become a real estate broker, these are the three things that I tell all of my clients that start investing in real estate. And I tell you, to this day, not one of my clients have gotten burned the same way I did back during the housing crash. And I personally still use these strategies today, and I have never had an issue since. So real quick, do me a huge favor before we get started. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell so you're notified each and every time I come out with a new video. So with that taken care of, let's jump right into the video. Let me start off by saying I got started in real estate investing in 2006, and I was only 23 years old. You see, I accumulated over $10 million worth of real estate back in 2006. And I know what some of you guys are thinking. Well, I thought you said you lost $10 million. Well, I can make the argument that had I still had those properties and wouldn't have lost them all, they could be worth much more in today's market. They would probably be worth double that. So I could have said I lost $20 million. But we'll just say since I lost all my properties and I went completely bankrupt, yep, I went bankrupt, then we'll just say I lost $10 million and these are the lessons you need to learn. Now, when I was 23 years old, I accumulated that amount of rental property, and I was also doing flips at the time. You see, I was making $30,000 a month on average as a 23, 24-year-old. Imagine being that and making that kind of money. See, back then you could do what's called no doc stated income loans. So I could literally do no documentation of my employment, and I can also state whatever income I want. Now, is that fraud? Absolutely. Everybody was doing it back then. And that's part of the reason why we had the 2008 real estate crash as big as we did. So without further ado, let's get started with lesson number one. And that is, I recommend to all my clients that they have at least a 6-month emergency fund on all of their properties. You see, back when I first started and I started accumulating all that real estate, everybody back then thought that the housing market would just keep going up and up and up and never crash. Well, obviously it did. And there was only a few people, look at The Big Short, they made a whole movie about it.
The default rates are already up from 1% to 4%, fellas. And if they rise to 8%, and they will, a lot of these triple Bs are going to 0 too. And that, you're too close, is an opportunity.
Okay, you're saying that at 8% the bonds fail and we are already at 4%?
That's right.
If they go to 8, it's Armageddon.
But only a few people realized that this was a big problem. And so I spent every dime that I made. That's right. I was making close to $30,000, like I said, and I would go out and I would go party and I would buy nice things. I had a nice truck, a nice house, a nice condo on the lake, a nice ski boat. You name it, I did it. So what I'm telling you is things are going to happen. The market's always going to correct itself. It'll never keep going up and up and up. Eventually, what goes up must come down. Now, do I think that we're going to have another crash like 2008? No, I don't. But what I do think is things will happen, and you have to prepare for them. So, if I was you, I would not even look at any cash flow or any profit that you're making on any of your rental properties as profit until you have at least 6 months worth of expenses put back in a money market account for those properties. Now, what do I consider expenses? I consider expenses to be PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So if your payment for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance come up to, let's say, $1,000, you need to at least put $6,000 into a money market account away from the rest of your money that's not readily available and have it sitting there. I know it's not accumulating a lot of interest, but it's to protect you in case something goes wrong. If you do this one thing alone, and that's all you got out of this video, I promise you, you will be more protected than probably 98% of investors out there who do the same thing that I did, and they spend everything they make. So, moving on to lesson number 2. You got to have at least a 20% equity position in all of your properties. So why do I want 20%? Well, it's not only just to get out of private mortgage insurance, or PMI, which is basically insurance in case you foreclose. And by the way, you get to pay for that insurance for the bank. And then if you foreclose, they still get their money from the insurance, and they're still going to come after you for the difference. So don't do that. Instead, get a 20% equity position, because in case things go south like it did for me, you want to be able to get out of that deal and dump the property, worst case scenario. The last thing you want to do is take a bankruptcy or foreclosure if you can avoid it. And typically you can avoid it if you have that big cushion of at least 20% equity position. Now, the equity position does not need to come from strictly cash. So a lot of people think, well, I got to save 20% down, and that's not true. Let me give you an example. You see, I bought a rental property from one of my past clients, and she paid cash for the property when we first got it, and a year later she needed to move back down to Texas to take care of her grandparents. So she comes to me and says, hey Colt, let's put the house back on the market. I need to get it sold. What do you think it's worth? And she bought it for $75,000, and I told her, hey, you haven't really lived in it very long. You're probably not going to get much more than $75,000. I ended up running a market report, and sure enough, that's pretty much where it was. The market hadn't really changed any over that year. We went ahead and put it back on the market, and after about 3 days, she rings me up and says, hey, why don't you just buy it? You own rental properties, so why don't you just make me an offer? Well, as an investor, I told her, you're not going to like my deal because I don't pay retail. She said, that's okay. You just come back and tell me what number you think, and if it's something that we can work with, then we'll put a deal together. So I ran some numbers, and I structured a deal in such a way that I told her, look, I'll pay you $60,000 for the property. So if you notice, I have my 20% equity position right off the bat. And the condition was, you owner finance the property to me. I'm not going to go get a bank loan, but I'll give you a higher interest rate for doing the loan. And here's how it works. I'll buy it from you for $60,000. I'll take a loan out with you over 4 years, and we'll amortize it. We'll schedule it out for 30 with a balloon payment of 4 years. The interest on the 6% loan over 4 years came out to almost $15,000. So I bought it for $60,000. She waited 4 years. Mind you, she cash flowed. She had a monthly income coming in from that. So after 4 years, I went ahead and refinanced it and paid off the original loan. So she got all that interest for 4 years plus the original balance of 60. Well, it's a little less. It's like 58 because I paid down some of the principal. But you get the point. She gets her $75,000. She got cash flow up front or during that time. And I had a property that I had zero money into the deal, and I was cash flowing about $300 to $400 a month off that little property. It was a win-win for everybody, but I still had my 20% equity position. So no matter what, get your 20% equity position so that you can get out of the deal just in case things go bad. So what do you think so far, guys? Are you liking what you hear? If so, if you haven't done so already, make sure to hit the like button for me to help me grow this channel. So finally, this brings us to lesson number 3, and this one's huge. Don't live off the profits. Instead, reinvest them. So like I told you, I was making a lot of money. I was making about $30,000 on average a month. Now, granted, that was between all my rentals that I had and the flips that I was doing. Now, I had a team that I was in charge of, and so I was flipping a lot of homes at the time. So I had about $10,000 a month in rental income, and then about another $20,000 a month from the flips that I was doing. You see, back then, banks were lavishly giving out loans, and so I thought that they would continue doing that no matter what. Well, when the crash hit, banks just tightened up everything, and the loans went away, which really killed my cash flow because I didn't have anything to fall back on. On top of that, because I was spending everything, I had no emergency fund when some of my tenants could no longer pay the rent because they were losing their jobs because of the downward turn in the economy and everything. I went from about $10,000 a month in rental income to now paying out of pocket just to cover the mortgages. And when you have $10 million worth of property, that mortgage payment adds up to a lot of money, let me tell you. So the best thing I learned from this is you need to live off what's called your active income. And that's income that you make from your normal job or any other income that's coming in besides your investment income. Your investment income should be passive or mostly passive. There's never any such thing as fully passive because you still have to manage it all. However, you need to take that income that you make from your rental properties or your flips or whatever, and you need to reinvest those or save that for future investments down the road without touching it. Now, once your passive income meets or exceeds the level of your monthly expenses that it takes to live and sustain the lifestyle that you've created, then you've reached what's called financial freedom. And at that point, what I would recommend is live off the passive income and don't exceed your financial lifestyle that the passive income can generate. At the same time, take your active income, stay with your job, and keep taking 100% of that and investing it in new deals. So as you're investing more and more of your active income, your passive income grows and grows and grows. And you're literally giving yourself a raise, but it's built on a solid foundation of passive income while you're still working. Now, when would I personally say I can retire and live the good life or whatever you want to call it? I would say that I would not do that until I was at a rate where my passive income was at a rate of at least 1.5 times of my expenses. So if it takes me $5,000 to live off of to pay for my house, my car, my food, utilities, everything, $5,000 a month, I want 1.5 times that amount. So I would want my passive income to be bringing in each and every month, probably for at least 3 or 4 months before I even transition to that, but at least showing that I'm generating $7,500 a month to cover those expenses. That way it gives you a huge cushion and you're built on a very solid foundation. So what do you do from there? Well, you could retire, or you can go to a part-time job, start doing something that you actually love instead of the job that you hate. The possibilities are endless. But this gives you the financial freedom. It gives you the peace of mind to sleep good at night, knowing that you got 6 months worth of emergency fund. You have a 20% equity position in everything you do, and you haven't spent any of your money until you built it up to at least 1.5 times your expenses. So that's it, guys. Those are the top 3 things that I learned. It was a $10 million education. But I'll tell you what, I wouldn't have it any other way. I have learned so much from that $10 million mistake, and I'm able to help so many people through my real estate brokerage career. Like I said, none of my clients have been burnt so far, knock on wood. So I hope these lessons were of value. I hope that you learned something here today. Thanks so much for checking out my channel, guys. If you like what you saw today, please do me a huge favor to help me grow this channel. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the bell so that you're notified of every time that I come out with a new video. So with that, guys, I'm planning on posting 3 different videos each and every week, and I have the next 4 months already planned out. And from there, I'm hoping that with your guys' feedback in the comments below, I'll have plenty of questions and plenty of future ideas to make future videos and just keep building and building this channel. My goal with this channel is to focus on mindset to be successful and the practical things that you can do with your money so that you can retire early and live a financial free life. Thanks again for watching, and take care. Wait, don't go. If you made it this far, I want to thank you for watching all the way to the end, and I want to give you one last bonus lesson that I learned during the 2008 housing crash. That is, don't be afraid to go slow. The tortoise really wins the race in real estate investing. And I know that sounds counterproductive, and it goes against the grain of our economic society. Everybody wants the microwave mentality, and they want to get things done quick. But I can tell you, it's because I went so fast in my real estate investing, I didn't have the time to learn the real life experiences that I needed to learn when it comes to managing my properties and structuring deals in such a way that's going to make them stable and last the test of time. One of the best books that I've ever read is by Gary Keller, called The Millionaire Real Estate Investor. Now, unfortunately, Gary didn't come out with that book until many years after I went bankrupt. But if you want to check it out, I put the link to it in the description below, and you got to check out that book. It's going to teach you how to analyze property, how to make sure that you're set up financially for the long haul and how you can eventually become a millionaire real estate investor over time. So thanks again, guys. I really appreciate you checking out my new channel. I hope to chat with each and every one of you in the chat section below. And until next time, take care.